Good morning, everyone. Welcome. This is Angela Coulter and
Darcy Gavignoni.
bringing you this week's Ascended World Collective Energy Share. Apology for the late start. We had some computer upgrades that had to happen apparently.
Right. Couldn't have this conversation without him.
Apparently not. So it happens. I just love that. You know what? It just is such a sinking feeling. So I understood when you said, oh God, my computer just said it's got to update. And I'm like, oh, I hate that.
Well, it had already done the update. So it was just waiting on the restart. And it's like that black screen with the little bar that's just outlined. So no progress made.
Do not turn this computer off at this point. Yeah.
I was like, you've got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
And my phone kept telling me yesterday it was going to update tonight overnight while it was plugged in. And then I get it this morning and it says, yeah, it didn't update. And I was like, I don't even want to know.
Yeah, I do that with, you know what, I try to set that too. Like, unfortunately, every time I think I have it, good morning, Gloria. Every time I think I have it down, like with my computer, right? Because it'll ask me, it's going to update, it's, has updates or whatever, it's going to update in these hours. Would you rather do it at a different time? And, and I have it set to do it like overnight or whatever.
Well, that's what this was.
Yeah. And that does, and I was, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I know it doesn't always work. So. Yep. Somehow it's like, okay, well, how does 7 a.m. or 8 a.m. turn out to be overnight? That's just not true. But
yeah, well, let's blame it on the time change.
Yeah, sure.
Why not?
Oh my goodness. So yeah, so this topic for today is like a lot of layers.
Right.
Oh, so you're just talking about it.
Right. Yeah, my eyes are already watering.
Yeah. So I don't even know how do we even come to this. Oh, I vaguely remember.
I think actually we started talking about the politics and the polarity of everything and about how, if you're voting for this person or voting for this person, then that intolerance and that, but yet we're supposed to be connected and, we're in this separate but together, and that whole conversation about just the division that's going on and the I know that person is part of me and I'm supposed to unconditionally love that person, but I hate them more now than I ever have.
So much contention, right?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, and then there was something else though, because we started someplace else and then that turned into this, because then we're like, oh no, this is much, this is like a bigger one. And I can't remember it because you started with something else. And then I was like, yeah. And then I was like, oh, there's something more. Remember, we're like, no, there's something more beyond that. But it was like connected. And I can't remember what that first part was now too. But yeah, you're right. I mean, I know that's a big part. And I know before we delve in, I don't want to miss the whole.
Oh, I know what it was. I had to look at my notes. If we connect with people who have different beliefs than we have, then we believe that we have to connect to their beliefs as well. Almost like we have to come down to that level.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, then it was that concept that the idea of connection still involves separation. Now, everybody sit and think about this for a minute. Good morning, Yasmin. So think about that for a minute. Because when Sarah blurted that out and I was like, yeah, yep. And that's like much bigger than a bread box.
Right.
So, because we talk about, oh, we're going to stay connected. Right. So, oh, right. And now I remember the whole train. See, it just takes a couple of minutes of like rehashing to get back to where we were.
Right.
But it's like, so we think that, this is what we were talking about. It's like, okay, so we talk about connecting, but we talk it from the standpoint of saying, well, we have to be separate to connect.
Right.
Right. That's what we say, we think telepathy is, but it's not.
Right.
And I mean, it is in a separation sense, but the thing is, when we're managing things from a separation standpoint, it's going, okay, so I believe then if I did not believe you and I were separate, I wouldn't say we needed to connect.
Exactly. So as long as we're able to have face-to-face conversation, hugs, and chit chat and bond over activities, we don't need to connect.
Right. But the other step is that we're never separate anyway.
Right.
And that's the whole thing. So we talk about, and it's funny, and this is one of these big hidden things that we have, like a hidden in plain sight thing of, I am pretending I am connecting, or I'm connecting in. How many times people say that? Well, let me connect in, right?
Right.
You're never
Right.
disconnected. The
Right.
idea is that we're the idea in separation is that we're disconnected. So therefore, if we were not thinking from duality and separation, we wouldn't be saying, I need to connect. Yasmin says, oh,
It's
wow,
almost
yes.
like we're seamlessly connected. So we have to fool ourselves into we're disconnected so that we can fool ourselves into reconnecting.
Exactly. Right. And, it's like when we were talking about this, I said, yeah, so it's such a weird thing to think about that, like we'll talk about, oh, well, this is great. It's great that we can talk regularly and be on Zoom regularly and we see each other, but it's so much better when we're in person, right?
Right.
Well, that's a belief we hold because that's a separation belief we hold, right? Because it believes that makes us believe that we are continued. So for us to talk about connection in that sense of definition, we have to like, it's for us to look in the mirror and say, so to perpetuate that whole series of statements and definitions and words, I have to perpetuate separation.
Right. Right.
Like, and that's so huge.
And then you take it back looking in the mirror. You look in the mirror and we're not even connecting with who we really are to begin with.
Exactly.
And that's where it all comes back to.
Yeah.
And until we master it on the individual level, and maybe that's just the answer, is because that's where the actual connection comes.
Right. Yep. Well,
and all that stuff that we believe, like I said, you have to connect with somebody. If in order to connect with somebody, you have to connect with their beliefs as well.
right.
All that just falls away when you connect at that level.
Well, you just take away the word connect when you just are at that level, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Where you just exist there, right? And that's
right.
It's a fluid oneness.
It's a state of being versus an activity.
Yes. And so you can observe the whole sea of everything, but you don't have to be their beliefs. You don't have to be, their limitations or whatever. But the thing also that's really important here is that it's one of many things that I'm sure we're going to uncover now that we're looking at this, right? That are places where we believe we are progressing. Excuse me, God, I can't even talk about it without yawning. Places where we think we are progressing, but where we think, and think is always the key word, right? Because that goes to your mind and ego,
right?
And separation based, right? So where we think we are progressing, and we say, but we're hiding behind ourselves in plain sight and saying, okay, well, no, I'm perpetuating separation by having to implement these beliefs, right? And that's enough, right? That's enough.
Right. I can stop right there.
I can stop right there. And that's where our shortfalls happen is when we say, oh no, that's enough.
Right.
Oh, I just want this to happen. And then that's enough. How many times did we say that? Oh, like my goal is I just to get here. Right.
And we think that we're doing ourselves a favor by settling because then it won't be as hard.
Right. Well, then why we have to try all the time. Right.
And if we can just let go of that and actually just let it flow like it naturally wants to, then that's what's the easiest on ourselves.
Yeah. And the thing is, when we come from that perspective, so Gloria says you can choose of what of their beliefs you connect to and leave the rest behind. I think there's a delay in the comments. Yes. Well, and you don't have to connect to anything because you already are that, except you just choose to be where you are, wherever that is, whether it's in that spot or not, right? So there's no connecting. That's the thing is you take out the word connect. You just say, it is what it is.
Right. Right.
And so, but the thing is, going back to the enough, like that is what has kept us, like I've looked at that in meditation over the weekend, and it's like that is what has kept us in cycles of limitation, like saying, oh no, if this just happens, that'll be enough.
Right.
If we get to this point, that'll be enough. And that goes back to our political conversation of, oh, we just need to get past this election and that'll be enough.
Like that's gonna make all this better.
It's not going to make anything better. Well,
No.
I don't mean it in any like negative judgmental way. It's just simply not going to, like, we have yet to complete the lessons. So no matter, like we said last week, no matter what the picture looks like of who's in front, it doesn't matter. We're going to the same set of lessons. So
Exactly.
the thing is to come to peace within that, within yourself. I mean, again, we've been saying this from the beginning of all the COVID stuff, of all everything else that's been going on this year, is to turn within to get to that centeredness. And that's really where you lose the need for connection, because you already are. What I have experienced, though, since we talked about that Friday in my meditations, is like this seamless deepening, of, and it's not like, I don't want to say connecting, but it's like literally when I just focus in the area of letting everything go, right? Going into meditation and stuff.
Right.
It is so seamless right now, so deep. And it was like almost like I just removed some kind of major partition, and it's like, oh, and in fact, I woke up this morning, probably time change stuff,
Right.
very early, and I came upstairs and I lay down up here, and I'm like, I would really like to go back to sleep for a couple of hours, because it was like 4:30.
Right.
And when it was 5:30, that was not too bad, but at 4:30 it was a little early. And then I'm like, okay, so I'm like, I'm just gonna meditate. I'm just gonna expand my consciousness out there. And I was out like that. Like I vaguely remember doing that. And then it was just like, and it's not, so here's the thing, it's not connecting, it's letting go.
Right. And I had a major something Saturday night. And so Friday night I didn't sleep, Saturday night I didn't sleep. And I guess it was yesterday all day long. I was just, I've got to let go. Whatever this is, it's like I feel like I'm trying to hold back a 747 with a rope, It's like, no, I'm not going to let go. I'm not going to let go. And I finally let go, and I slept for over 10 hours last night.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was like, I think my sleep tracker, it was like I was in bed like 10 hours and 34 minutes and asleep 10 hours and 26 minutes.
Wow.
Yep.
That's some deep sleeping.
And I mean, I got up this morning and I was like, I feel like I've been dead. But I feel different, like remade, kind of put back together differently. It was huge. So whatever that has been such a big drain on me is keeping that, disallowing that connection, disallowing that flow. And it's like, holding back a river. And
holding back a tsunami.
Right.
These days.
Right.
And that's really what it is. It goes from that shift in energy perspective of what we talk about all the time, having to do with like you never learn anything, you simply remember it, right? It's a completely different, it's a havingness thing. It's I have all of the answers. I have all the like there is no need for connection because I have all of it. I have all the knowledge. It's all me, right? And when you come to that true realization, it's like, okay, well, every step of what we do to connect in is really letting go of what we're preventing ourselves to access what is us.
Yeah, that's interesting the way you phrase that. It reminds me of something I read. I know the Harry Potter movies were on this weekend, and that's my favorite place, especially Dumbledore's lines. When he's standing in front of the mirror and he tells, Harry about how, a lot of men, this ruins their lives. And he said, it's only those that can see that they already have everything. So it doesn't ruin their lives because they see the reality of it, that they are already everything they need to be.
Right.
And that, I mean, that's just exactly what you just said.
Yeah.
That's where the value is.
Exactly. And it's and we come to different steps of that, I think. We come to different steps, and then we say that's enough.
Right. Right.
And then we forget and it's not that saying enough is bad, it's that it prevents us from going further, right? And that
It's almost like lying to yourself.
yeah. Yeah, and it's like saying, okay, no, that was enough. It was like, and it's such a challenging thing to put words to, but it's just the energy of it. Oh, see, there we go. It's so expansive because when we stop saying, okay, I'm just going to go to here and that's enough, instead of I'm going where I'm guided, right? Or I'm doing or being what I'm guided, and I'm going to continue beyond here. It's like I think there was a lady, well, there have been several people over a period of time that have like I remember there was somebody in the news a couple of years ago that had won the lottery, like they had won a big lottery and then they won a smaller one, and they're like, well, I can't believe you're still playing the lottery after you won the lottery. And she was like, well, why would I stop?
Right. 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 That's like saying, okay, I'll take $200,000, but I don't want any more.
Yeah, don't give me anything else. Nope.
No, no, don't. Yep, nope.
But she did. She won like several $100,000 more on something else, and it's like, good for you.
Right.
Oh yeah, let me remember how to access that, right?
Right. Right.
But and it's not, I mean, and that's just one thing that just sort of popped into mind. But but we do that on our spiritual journeys too, saying, well, if I can only do this, that'll be enough, and then we stop, and then we wonder why we still have other continuing issues, because we're like, oh no, that's enough, right? And
Right.
so it's like saying, again, here's the other one, saying things are new.
Right. Right.
They're not new.
Or,
They're
or,
just newly remembered. Is it?
right. I don't know how to do this. I need, which means that I don't have it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right. I need help. I need blah, blah, blah. Or, I'll do this when I can get this kind of help. Or, you know, I'll do this when I have this much money in the bank, or I do this when I get past this, right? How many times people said, oh, I'll focus on that after I get past this, one thing at a time. I've said it so many times.
Oh, right. Right. Well, and my favorite, which I know that I've looked hard at, is that multitasking is so counterproductive because you never do any one thing well. And it's like, how about you just focus on having it all and letting it go, and then you don't have to multitask. It's everything.
Let it all come to fruition in its perfect time and place, right?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is a challenging one. Oh my gosh, I have to stop the audio.
Well, I think the most challenging part is seeing it.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's challenging because we're so blind to it.
Right.
Yeah. That we don't realize it. Oh, yeah. Like I just think about that. It took me so long. Well, I don't know. It took me a while back when I first started doing this consciously on, seeing everybody's negativity. Like that's one thing, right? Seeing your own negativity and others around you and all that kind of stuff, right? And then changing, that conversation and not being a part of it. And so that's a really deeply embedded conversation that we have, or, belief system that we have. And this is about 100 times deeper, right, than that,
Right.
of how many things we do that, oh, that's enough. And it's, and the thing is, when we say that's enough, what we are also saying is that there's a too much.
And saying that I'll only accept part of myself.
And that there's a lack too.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
That there's a lack, there's a too much, you're right. And then there's something that's not me. So whenever we say that, so how do we do that differently? I guess, it's a matter of, the recognizing I already have all of it. It's just how I access it.
Right. That identification and that responsibility, that responsibility of saying, yeah, I am not being who I really am. That I am creating this way. I am creating that prevention. Because that's kind of like a slap in the face. Because you want to say, oh, but it's this, and this that's preventing it.
Oh, it's a victimhood, right?
Right. Right.
Oh, it's a bad time. Oh, look at what's going on in the world, right?
Sad. And I'm trying so hard.
And I'm just so tired. It's yeah, because it's so hard.
I love the change in the tone of voice. I'm so pitiful.
No judgment though. There's no judgment on it.
Right.
But this is what we do. I mean, we're laughing because we do this all the time and we do it at so many levels that we just don't even like hear ourselves, right? So this is a really deep level of hearing ourselves and seeing our thoughts and remember and realizing that, oh, look at this. I'm still denying myself this to pretend that I have attained it. I'm denying myself this to say, oh, look what I got, even though that was mine to begin with.
Well,
So
and you know, something that I just remembered that we talked about is, you know, we talk about nurturing yourself first, filling your cup first. And so many people are getting on board with that. And that's why we have so much aggression. It's like, no, I'm divine. I'm allowed to do this, you know. And it's that allowing it that further bit to then start overflowing to where you believe that everyone else is divine as well.
Oh, and that's where we started. That was the first step. That was the first step because we keep on talking about unconditional self-love, right? And people talk about self-love and they say, oh, but that's selfish, that's, you know, narcissistic and all kind of stuff. And it's like, no, there are different kinds of self-love. There's the self-love that is narcissistic and exclusionary, which is ego-based, right? Which actually is not self-love, but is actually self-loathing. That's proving, that's trying to prove, saying that to prove myself worthy and convince yourself that you're worthy, you have to prove it to other people over others, right?
And so in proving it means you disprove it for them.
Right. And for yourself, that you don't believe it yourself, or else you wouldn't have to prove anything, right? Because when you truly know something, you don't need to prove it. You're just like, okay, whatever. And when you come to that place of unconditional self-love, it's that, okay, I have so much love flowing out of me like a big geyser that I can't help but be loving and giving and sharing and expansive with others.
Right. And that's where the gap is. It's like we're just filling, we're not overflowing.
Right. We're just getting to the top of the glass saying, oh, no, that's enough.
That's enough.
That's enough.
That's enough because nobody else deserves this. I don't believe that anybody else deserves this.
And that's where it turns sour in many cases, because that's where the ego kicks in and says, oh, well, I have to preserve this without spilling it, right? Without losing it. So I have to then do it to the exclusion of others, right? Instead, which still means that there is still some belief that you are still in lack somewhere, right? So it's a partial, it's a progress, and that's where we stop ourselves. And that's where we tend to fall into, you know, egoic lessons of, you know, lack and the tower crashing kind of thing, you know. But when we truly allow it to burst out of us, you know, it's just effortless and easy and blissful, you know.
And that's, you know, that's being the calm in the storm, that's being the lighthouse, that's being all those things that we talk about. And yes, it starts here, but only till it goes out.
Right. So
there it is.
There it is on a platter.
Right. Tied up neat with a bow.
So for us this week, it's really the idea of allowing ourselves, allowing ourselves the divine right of everything, right? Of knowing that it's already us, not ours, but us.
And us is not just me.
Right. Yes. And so when we get to that place, and to know that we don't need to to reach out to connect. We don't need to reach out to do more. We don't need to stop at enough because we're afraid that it's something's going to overflow and be too much, right? How many times I've heard people say, and now I don't want to dwell on the money thing, but this is just where the conversation comes up a lot. That's really at the surface, right? I've heard people say, oh, have you seen the whatever it is, Mega Millions or whatever is, 600, or like there was one time I got it for like $1 billion or something like that, right?
Yeah.
You were like, well, that's just too much money. And I'm just like, well, then you can deny yourself that. I will accept it gladly.
Don't narrow my choices.
I'm like,
my chances.
I'm like, I am fully accepting and willing to take that if it's offered to me.
Absolutely.
And it's like, yeah, and more, and more. I don't, and and it's funny because I've had periods of time like, big upgrades or whatever we consider upgrades or next levels or openings or whatever, where I have just had such magical experience and such support and such an amazing, things that have turned up for me and whatever, that I have had to more and more, because it gets bigger as we go, more and more I've had to do work with myself to say, stop the thought in the back of your mind saying, oh, that's enough. That's it. I'm good. That's good enough. Like I'm not gonna look a gift horse in the mouth, like that kind of thing. Because as we say that, look,
because then, well, I might lose it all because I'll look selfish.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And say things like, oh no, I'm very thankful for this. I'm very thankful. So like I've had to retrain myself to be like, no, I'm very thankful for all of this, and now I'm ready for this too.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's not selfish, because I don't believe that anybody is limited. I believe that we all have an unlimited tapping into an unlimited potential of what we can access, because all of this is just a facade that we've created. So then we create more.
Right. And who wouldn't want this?
Right. Right. I mean, and we have a lot of little like pings all around us that are telling us this, and we're ignoring it.
Right.
I mean, look at our
now.
What was that?
Let's listen now before they have to get louder.
Right. I mean, look at the money situation, our currency, and especially in this country, but all the, it's like, we don't have the gold standard anymore. They basically, money is just a facade.
Right. And it's not even,
they're talking about wanting to go all, and they're talking about wanting to go all electronic instead of, yeah.
Right. I mean, already they've limited coins.
Yeah, which I think is,
and now some businesses are going purely electronic, and it's like, it's all just zeros and ones.
Yeah. And so you're going, okay. And it's all just pretend anyway, because there's nothing to back it.
Right.
Because somebody says it's accurate or not. And we got like in some share session or one of these that we did ages ago, where it was like, I remember seeing that currency was going to change completely to being those who were more in tune and awake and like spent more of their focus on internal stuff, on their internal self, right?
Right.
Then the external
currency would really be currency.
Right. That would be the value, and not anything external anymore. And to me, that's just beautiful and freeing. And then it holds us up to our own light, or whatever, our own mirror, holds us up to our own responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. So then we focus on today, being observant to your own, being able to see, observe, and recognize where you are saying, this is enough for me.
And don't judge it.
Don't judge it. Yeah. And then say, well, what if I allowed more?
All
of it. Right. And with that, because I hear this collectively when I say that, is because then there's this, but then there comes greed and everything else. I'm like, no, but greed always comes from a place of lack. That's the thing.
Greed comes from a place of a limited amount.
Yes.
And I mean, take away limit, and we can all be greedy.
Yeah. Yeah, it was funny. There was a show I was watching over the weekend that there was this guy and this woman were talking, and she's a teacher, and I don't even know what he did, but he's like extremely wealthy, and she was judging him because of that, and he was like, well, he's like, I'm not a snob. He said, because you think I'm a snob, don't you? And she's like, well, he's like, I'm not a snob because I just spend my money freely. He goes, I've earned it. He goes, and I spend it freely. He goes, I spend it in all different ways, and I'm okay with that.
Well, that creates that flow.
Right. Right.
How do you have more come to you if you don't have some go from you?
Right. And I mean, and spending freely was like he sponsored a bunch of stuff. Like, and it's like not that you have to justify, but it was like he was sponsored this and sponsored that and sponsored that. But then of course played with it himself.
Right.
And she's like, and he's like, there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
But and of course, like I said, we come back to a lot of times value with money, but it's not just that. It has to do with, I'm just waiting until I lose 10 pounds. I'm waiting until my kids get to be this age. I'm waiting until blah, blah. It's like always like I'm waiting until I have this much money in the bank. I'm waiting until
Right.
I have this many years of experience. I'm waiting until I have this much time to myself, right? Like this is all these things that we're buying off ourselves and staying in separation
Yep.
and lack,
Right.
right?
Well, it's an excuse that we allow to hold us back.
Right. Well, because then it perpetuates our whole like fun and the whole game of separation, right?
Right.
So, okay.
Let's just win the game now.
Well, let's just realize we never even didn't win the game. We even played it because we created it and played it in completion, all at once.
Right.
So yeah, the realization. So being observed. So I guess we set ourselves to be observant, be able to see ourselves where we're stopping ourselves by saying this is enough, to have clarity on how to shift the perspective of that enough, right? And lack that's connected to it, to shift it to know that you're coming from a full, the full well, right?
Right.
That is an infinitely full well of us as one in wholeness, and to realize you're worthy to, and you can access that
Right.
all easily, as already there, instead of having to attain or earn or get or whatever, and to remember how to do that, how to access that right now.
All without judgment and with forgiveness.
Forgiveness and with fun. And let it be easy.
Right. Right.
Absolutely. And enjoyable. Easy and enjoyable. Right?
Right.
Okay. So all that, a nice little bow.
All that.
Yeah. You ready?
I am.
So anybody who hasn't watched or listened before, you can just close your eyes, take a deep breath, and be willing to receive as we hold ourselves in creating that vibration as our truth. Yeah, and I could stay there all day.
Wow.
Yeah, I went with, I don't even know how long we were out there.
Felt like forever and no time at all at the same
Yeah,
time.
I know.
No idea how long we were out there.
Mm. And it was so funny because I don't remember what I was seeing. I saw a lot of stuff and it was like, okay, well, now we can let go of this. We can let go of this. And it was like almost like opening up all these paddocks. It was like, oh, yeah, we can just open this. We can do this. And it reminds me of what we were working earlier this year and we were taking out all the doors between dimensions and stuff like that. It's like,
Oh,
oh,
yeah.
yeah, we could just. And I was like, oh, and every step I just felt so much more relaxed, so much more complete, so much fuller. It was really nice. And I saw there was some other stuff that came up at the collective level, but I can't remember what it was, but it just felt so good.
I had words to a song just going through my head, and I cannot think of the name of the song. It's making me crazy. And I was like, quit distracting me.
I had that happen at 4:30 this morning.
And it was a Sting song, and it's a song I really like, but I can't remember the title. But anyway, at some point it was like, your face will turn to alabaster when you realize your servant is your master, or the servant is the master, or whatever. But it was almost like once you change how you look at it, and I kept just focusing on that, and it's like, okay, let me just do that. Quit singing it. Let me just do
that,
it.
yeah, just that.
Right.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. That felt really good.
It did.
Just,
That felt so large scale.
it really did.
Yeah.
That's gonna be a lot this week. Well, it's funny that this would come up this week, wouldn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I didn't
I
even put that
didn't make
together.
that connection.
Me neither. So we'll have to see. Everybody,
Yeah. Let that add to your excitement this week.
yeah. Stay in your place of already whole, already done, already complete,
Right.
already have access to. And what did we talk about? What did we talk about last week?
Hmm.
I feel like there's some kind of
Week
tie.
was cleanup crew.
Oh, right.
Right.
And instead letting it all just sort of take care, like let it resolve, knowing that it's all perfect, right?
Right.
Something like that. I don't even remember, but I saw it connected out there and I was like, oh yeah. So allow this week and play with that.
Well, last week was so much consequences, and this week it's like there's no such thing as consequences.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, because I know last week we were talking about not accepting that there have to be consequences to things anymore, right?
Right.
And I guess we had to clear that up first before we could get to this, because we could believe that there are consequences if I just, skip the line or,
Right.
don't take those limitations. So, all right, everybody play in that, stay in that space, come back and do that clearing again and again. This week might be a little bit crazy on the 3D level. So,
Good time to stay in that space.
yeah, it is a great time to stay in that space. So, on that, we'll let you go. This is Angela Coulter, and
Darcy Gavignoni.
we'll see you next week on Ascended World. Have a good one.
Bye bye.